Okay, welcome everyone to Social Media Platform How-To for Librarians, Twitter. So if you're in the wrong classroom, go to the correct classroom. No, I'm glad you're all here. Glad you all could join us today. We're going to start with going over the basic features and the target audience for Twitter. Most people have at least heard of Twitter. They know kind of what it is, but I wanted to give first go over the requirements for accessing Twitter and then the history and the target audience. So the requirements are pretty straightforward. You'll need a web browser on a computer with high-speed internet connection, or a mobile device that runs either on the Android operating system or the Apple iOS or operating system with the Twitter app installed, and the app is free. And a note, Twitter is optimized to run on a mobile device, so it's assumed that you'll have a camera and recording capabilities on that device. It's not required, but there'll be parts of Twitter that I'll be showing you that will look different if you're accessing it from a phone or a tablet. And there are parts of the actual website that we're going to access through a web browser that are optimized for mobile, so they might look a little different on the web browser. And you'll also, if you're setting up an account for your library, you'll need a library email and an account administrator running the Twitter account. So a quick history and a note on the target audience of Twitter. It started in 2006 as a way for people working in a small podcasting startup to exchange short messages. And if you look into the history of Twitter, or care to look into the history of Twitter, they didn't have really an idea of what Twitter has developed into today in mind when they first started it. When it was taken public the next year, it was originally thought of as a micro-blogging social network platform. I mean, that's about all the more clear idea they had for what they wanted Twitter to be. It's since expanded, gone through many evolutions, but expanded to include the sharing of pictures, of GIFs, of recorded videos, live videos, but it still remains a largely text-based medium. And although it's accessible by web browser, its target audience are those accessing it on mobile devices. Twitter can provide a stream of quick updates from friends and family. It can provide information in small doses from people like scholars or the people who are communicating information, including news journalists and other experts. It allows any user to become an amateur journalist of life, is how it's also been described. And it's become known for the place to go to hear directly from celebrities and leaders. Whether for good or ill, this is one of the things it's known for. So we're going to go through setting up an account, and I set up a fake Twitter account so I could capture the screenshots. So from the Twitter homepage, you click sign up if you don't already have an account, and from there it'll ask you to create an account. For the name, you want to put in your library's name. But keep in mind, if there's another library with the same name, that name may already have been taken. Where it says phone number, this is because it's developed for a mobile device, like a cell phone. And so you will want to click use email instead, where I have that red arrow, so you can use a library email to sign up for an account. For date of birth, it won't be shown publicly. So you can choose whatever date you want to put in there, although you do want to make your library older than 18 years old. So you could choose the date your library was founded. You could choose your own birth date if you wanted. You could choose a random date, as long as your account is older than 18 years. So once you've done that, if we follow the numbers here, it'll ask you a series of questions on a series of small screens. So it'll ask you if you want to customize your experience by tracking where you see Twitter content, by them tracking where you see Twitter content across the web. You can say yes or no. It does not compromise your privacy to the public, but it does mean that Twitter is collecting information about your internet habits. So you don't have to let them. That's not a requirement to have an account. It'll ask you next to create your account, and this is where you can put in your Twitter handle. So I chose Bainville Library. It's the fictional account that I created when we did the Facebook webinar. And then I put in my work Gmail address because I needed to access it to verify the account. So the next step is they will send a code to either the phone number you've provided or to the email that you've provided, and you'll go back, check your email, enter that code, and then they'll ask you to set up a password, which is pretty standard for any account you're creating online. Then it'll ask you to pick a profile picture, and you can skip this at this point if you want, but I would recommend uploading a picture of your library or something that is recognizable as your library. If your library has a logo that it uses on websites or other social media platforms, you can use that. The description, it says in there, don't think too hard, just have fun with it. And so it's not asking for a whole biography. You will want to put in the name of your library and maybe say it's the account for the public library in such and such city. If your library has a similar name to another larger public library, let's say, for example, the Pittsburgh Public Library, you'll want to make that clear in that description that that's Pittsburgh, Kansas, and not Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. The third step is uploading contacts. This is if you're on a mobile device, it will ask to access your contacts and check and see who of your contacts in your phone already has a Twitter account. If you're on a web browser like I was, it'll ask you to upload your contacts, but you don't have to do this. And I would suggest clicking Not Now in this step because this is a step much more geared towards a person setting up an account, not a library. And then fourthly, it'll ask what you're interested in. And you can also skip this for now. In this example, I chose things like library, libraries, librarians, books, reading, etc., etc. It has suggestions that you can scroll through and check also. If you don't check anything here, or if you use really generic things like I did, your suggestions for who to follow will mostly be who's most popular on Twitter, which may or may not be what you're interested in. A quick note here, and see, I took a screenshot of some of the suggestions that it gave me because I wanted to just say, you don't have to follow any of those. You might not even know who some of those are. And lastly, it'll ask if you want to turn on notifications, which you can allow or skip for now. Once again, this is a feature that is more applicable to a mobile device. I think if you probably have heard it, even if you didn't connect it with Twitter. Twitter has a very recognizable tweet notification sound. And then the third screenshot there is just a picture of the home page, what it looks like on a web browser once it's all set up. I did want to note, and we'll look at this live also, where you can go in and control your settings and privacy. So from the home page, from your home page, it's under the More button and then Settings and Privacy, and we'll get more into that when we're looking at it live. All right. So let's talk a little bit about what in the world to post. You have this, what are you going to do with it? So the first main thing, tweets and then retweets and how to use hashtags. So a post you make on Twitter is called a tweet. It was originally limited to 140 characters, so that includes punctuation and space between words. But now it's they upped the limit to 280 characters. But in researching a few facts about Twitter, most users still stay below the 140 character limit. You can attach pictures or GIFs now, or and you can also, it's a nice feature, you can set up a poll in Twitter very easily. And a more recent feature, you can schedule a tweet for a future posting. So that can be nice if you want to front load a lot of tweets and have them automatically post. Sharing someone else's tweet is called a retweet. This is similar to sharing a post on Facebook. You can add searchable subjects to your tweet by using the hashtag symbol. The hashtag symbol to add a searchable subject to your social media post originated in Twitter. It's since expanded to Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. You can use the hashtag in a similar function. But it's important to note that the whole phenomenon of using a hashtag to tag your social media post or to add a searchable subject to it in librarian language originated with Twitter. So the other three major actions that you can do: replies, likes, and the @ feature. You can reply. This is like a comment or a question to a tweet. This starts a string of tweets, and when a tweet has many replies, the conversation can branch off like trees, because maybe you'll have one person reply something and then you reply to that person, but then someone else comments and you want to reply to that comment. And so if you're thinking about it in terms of how information is organized, these kind of conversations and interactions start to branch like a tree. Some Twitter users use the reply feature on their own post to create a thread or a longer post made up of only their posts. You see this a lot when news reporters are live tweeting a press release event. They will start the Twitter feed with, you know, I'm at this press release, scheduled to start momentarily. And then what they'll do is they will include information as they hear it in the press release or the news conference as separate replies to that first post. You can show support for a tweet by liking it using the heart symbol, and other users can see the tweets that you've liked. You can mention other Twitter users in a tweet by using the @ followed by their Twitter handle or their Twitter name. When that happens, they get notified and your tweet may show up in their followers' news feeds, as well as showing up in your own news feed. So let's see some of this live. Let's stop that sharing and go to here, and let me share my screen again. Okay. All right. So this is what our fictional library, the Bainville Library's homepage looks like. When I set up the account, I followed a few common library accounts or well-known national library accounts, such as Library Journal, American Libraries, and it gives you suggestions of who to follow. So it's suggesting School Library Journal, which is great. So we'll go ahead and click follow to be following them. And I also did not follow the American Library Association, just Library Journal. So you can click follow there and follow them there. You'll notice that it has other suggestions that you have no idea where they're coming out of. Like this looks Tyrann Matthew, ESPN, Donald Trump. It's just suggesting Twitter accounts that are popular on the platform. Scrolling down, this is your news feed. So let's say you see a post that you like. So here's American Libraries asking people to submit your libraries for the 2020 Library Design Showcase. So to like it, you would click the heart symbol. To comment on it, you would click the conversation bubble here. To retweet it, you would click this little circular symbol, not unlike the recycle symbol. And you can also send it via direct message, or you can copy the link to the tweet if you're wanting to post it to another social media platform. All right. Up here, if you want to make a post, I'm going to say this is a test post. Please ignore, and then you would click tweet to post it. This little symbol shows how much of your available characters you've used. You could attach a picture by clicking here, and you could go to your pictures, and I have various pictures there. I'm not going to attach a picture now. You could attach a GIF. So you don't have to have the GIF saved on your computer. You can search available GIFs that Twitter has. And to use a GIF, you want to choose an emotion or a topic. And I will say searching for GIFs is not an exact science. You kind of have to play around. So let's say we want this one of Arthur. And this is through a GIF platform called Tenor. It's pretty well known on social media. And you can tweet it. You can add emojis in here if you're on the desktop, like I am, by clicking on this button. And let's just add a smiley face. And we're done. And you can click the, excuse me, you can choose the skin color of your smiley face if you want. And you can see that it's appeared right there. If you're on mobile, it depends on the mobile device you're on, how you want to use emojis. And then we could click tweet. Now, the other thing that would be useful for libraries to use is the poll feature. You can ask a question up here, put the choices in here. So this is a great way to get feedback from your Twitter followers. All right, the other thing we were going to look at in this live demonstration part here, we were going to look at the More button, and we're going to look at settings and privacy. So here's where you can manage your account. You can change your display, how you see it on the screen. So account, you can change your username from here. You can add a phone number, change the password, change your email. But what we want to look at today is security. Excuse me, not security. We want to look at, give me a second here, privacy and safety. There we go. So privacy and safety. We're going to talk a little bit about this more later, but this is how you manage your privacy on this social media platform. So I would not suggest protecting your tweets if you're using it as a publicity tool, but that is where you can lock down your tweets and only show tweets to people who follow you. And it also turns on, you'll need to approve each new follower as they request to follow you. Here you can change photo tagging, and more importantly, you can change how you receive messages, direct messages, and other safety. So you probably, hopefully, are not going to be tweeting any sensitive material, but here's where you can choose to alert people that there's sensitive material, so they aren't just immediately bombarded with sensitive material. Here also you can see a list of people you may have muted, people you may have blocked, and you can change your notifications, which is once again more for your mobile use rather than your desktop use. But the reason you maybe want to look at who you've muted and who you've blocked. So if we go back to the home screen, and let's say that I've just really been having issues with School Library Journal. I mean, we wouldn't, but as an example, I'm going to make an example of School Library Journal. If you've been having issues with this user posting abusive content on your Twitter feed or just being rude, if you go up to the little caret that is in one of their posts, let's see, it's up here also, in the upper right-hand corner of their post, you can choose to say, I'm not interested in this. You can choose to unfollow the Twitter user completely. You can choose to mute them, and you can choose to block them. You can also choose to report the tweet, which does not mute or block them from your Twitter feed, but it does alert Twitter that this user has posted offensive content. And so Twitter does keep track of that. So I just wanted to show you really quick ways to manage your account live here. And we're going to go back to the presentation and talk a little bit more about how else to use Twitter. So give it a second here. We're waiting for it to come up. Oh, I wonder. There we go. Okay, so I think we looked at all of that live. Next, we're going to talk about how to build and interact with your audience. So first, some tips to get started. Put your Twitter handle on your library publicity and on your website. This is true of any of the social media platforms we've talked about in this series. Post consistently. I've bolded this because this is goes for any of the social media platforms that we're talking about in this webinar series, but it is worth repeating. The way to create a solid presence on social media is to post consistently. Follow and retweet retweet those organizations or accounts that you find interesting. This will give you more content in your news feed. You can also search by hashtag to see what others are posting on the topic that maybe you're interested in posting about. Let's say that you're posting about a specific new book that's come into the library. So you go ahead and make your post. You might want to go back, you'd want to hashtag those topics that would make that post findable, such as maybe the title of the book, the title of the author, maybe the genre, maybe something about bestseller or next cozy mystery read. And then you want to go back into Twitter and look at the hashtags for that title or author and see what other people are saying. You might want to retweet what some other people have been saying about that book with your own comment about, hey, we just have this book in at our library. So that's an example of things you can do to get started, really using the social media platform rather than just using it as a publicity tool. So some topics of tweets to get you started if you're all out of inspiration. You could post about closures, changes in opening hours or special or short-term hours. This is especially appropriate in this time. You could post about events and programs, about new books that we just talked about. Pictures of staff with permission, of course, get their permission. Unique or fun collections of programs your library has, just to raise awareness for them. Retweets that will be of interest to your patrons. So if you follow the Twitter accounts that your local community might have, so maybe you want to follow and retweet National Library News, like was on our example Twitter feed, but also see if your local newspaper, Chamber of Commerce, or law enforcement has a Twitter account that that maybe you want to retweet some information that they post for the community. And authors popular in your library. I included also a link to a list of some librarians to follow for inspiration that I would encourage you to check into later. There's 75 lists there. Some of them are well-known names and some of them are not. I thought about going through them and like trying to pick out a few, but I thought, well, I don't know what other people would necessarily find interesting. So I'll leave that whole list for you to explore. A note, it's both social and media. Remember that Twitter is not only a broadcast tool for news and publicity, it's also a communication tool. It's meant to have conversations, back and forth conversations. Twitter is especially known for its users having a personal voice. Sometimes this is positive, sometimes this is negative. And I'm sure you can all think about examples of Twitter tweets and Twitter users that have been in the news for both positive and negative reasons. While you want your account to remain professional, remember it's the voice of a public office after all. It does need to have a little bit of a personality. And so before you really engage with your Twitter account, maybe you want to sit down with your board or with the rest of your staff and talk about how are we representing our library on social media? What kind of voice do you want it to have? All right, and a note about curating your space. We went over these security and privacy settings, but remember that Twitter is open to anyone with an account, and if you've left your account open, you'll need to actively curate your Twitter presence. Twitter is getting better about addressing the trolls, so to speak, but it's not perfect. So you still need to be looking in on your account. Know how to unfollow, block, and delete abusive interactions. We went over some of that, but explore those further. And referring to your library social media policy, like I talked about before, establish what voice your account will have and stick to that. So it goes for the positive in that you're creating an online presence for your library that people feel like there's a real person behind it and they can interact with it. But it also goes for the negative. Establishing what voice your account will have will give you an idea of how to respond to any negative interactions that might happen. Okay, so I have some resources and further reading here. And I just wanted to note really quickly, yes, I did include a Wikipedia article. I read through it and found it to be pretty well written and referenced. So if you're more interested in the history of Twitter, I would definitely look into that. The Peace Library System, which I referred to on the Facebook social media platform webinar, has a guide to Twitter for libraries, like they have a guide to Facebook for libraries. However, It was written in 2016, and Twitter has changed since then. It still has some good information, though. What is Twitter and how does it work? I found to be a very approachable article if you're still I still don't understand what Twitter is about. That's a very good entry-level article. And then there's some research papers there, because I can't resist my academic librarian background, to look through, but keep in mind those are your standard research papers. And then also I found it interesting that the Smithsonian has posted a handout on Twitter for museums, libraries, and cultural organizations. So that's a good read also. With that being said, we're to the Q&A and wrap-up portion. And so we're to the end of the recorded portion of the webinar. I've included this screenshot of a tweet. I hope, and also don't hope, that it is relatable for you. And so I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.